The Axeman of New Orleans has one detail no one has ever explained. In the spring of 1919, a killer already responsible for 6 attacks sent a letter to a local newspaper. He said he would strike again on a Tuesday night. He said any house playing jazz music at the stroke of midnight would be spared. He didn't sign his name. He didn't explain how he knew where he'd strike next, or why jazz, of all things, would matter to a man who split skulls open with an axe. That night, New Orleans didn't call his bluff. Every dance hall filled, every piano, every trumpet, every phonograph in the city played until dawn. And when the sun came up, no one had died. Whether that letter came from a killer or from a city too frightened to test him is a question that has outlived everyone who lived through that spring. New Orleans in 1918 is a city stitched together by immigrants. Sicilian families run grocery stores on nearly every corner, small shops with a counter up front and a bedroom in the back. Joseph Maggio and his wife Catherine live exactly that way, above the little grocery they've spent years building on Upper Line Street. Joseph works the counter by day and locks the door by 10. Catherine keeps the books. Their neighbors know them as quiet, steady people, the kind who extend credit to families short on rent and never mention it again. Joseph's brother, Andrew, lives right next door, close enough to hear the radio through the wall on a slow evening. Nobody in that neighborhood has an enemy. Nobody can name a single grudge worth this. That's what makes what happens next so hard for anyone to explain, then or now. This is also a city that already lives on edge before any of this starts. The war in Europe has just ended. Soldiers are coming home to jobs that don't exist anymore. An influenza epidemic is moving through the same streets, filling the same hospitals the Axeman's victims will soon fill. And underneath all of it, jazz is pouring out of nearly every open window in the city, born a few miles from where Joseph and Catherine sleep, played by musicians who have no idea yet that this same music will one day be asked to save their neighbors' lives. New Orleans in 1918 doesn't feel like a city waiting for a monster. It feels like a city already carrying enough. The Axeman simply becomes one more weight, dropped onto a place that had no room left for it. It's the 23rd of May. Andrew hears nothing unusual that night. No struggle, no scream, no breaking glass. Just the ordinary quiet of a street going to sleep. He hears it the next morning instead, in the wrong way, when he walks over to check on his brother and finds the back door standing open. A panel has been chiseled clean out of it, cut with the kind of patience that takes real time, real stillness, real nerve. Inside, the bedroom is soaked through. Catherine is already gone. Joseph is barely breathing, his skull fractured, his jaw shattered beyond recognition, unable to speak even a single word to the men trying to save him. The weapon is his own axe, left behind at the foot of the bed. His own razor sits nearby, also used, also his. Nothing was stolen. No drawer searched, no register touched. Whoever did this didn't want money. He wanted exactly what he got, and then he walked back out the same hole he cut, coming in. 6 days later, a bricklayer named Louis Bessumer and a woman living with him are struck the same way through a chiseled door panel in the dead of night while they slept beside each other. Both survive the first blow. Neither one can say who did it or how long the attacker stood over them before he swung. By August, a grocer named Edward Schneider wakes with blood on his own pillow and no memory of anything that happened between falling asleep and waking up wounded. His wife, 8 months pregnant, sleeps in the very same bed and somehow isn't touched. By March of the following year, the pattern has repeated across half a dozen homes. Always Italian grocers, always the same chiseled door, always the weapon already inside the house, waiting rather than carried in from outside. Think about that for a moment. Every single weapon belonged to the victim. He never once brought his own. Bassumer's case drags on for months after the attack itself is over. Police can't settle on whether he was even the intended target, or whether the woman found beside him was. Before it's finished, 2 different people connected to that single household will die under circumstances the department never fully sorts out, and the case file grows thicker without growing any clearer. Every new attack seems to raise more questions than the last one answered, instead of narrowing anything down the way an investigation is supposed to. The city panics in a particular way, the kind that spreads faster than any single fact can catch up to it. Locksmiths sell out within days. Families who've never owned a weapon in their life buy one before the week is out. Grocers start sleeping in shifts, one awake while the other rests, an axe of their own kept by the bed, as if that ever helped the last family who tried it. Rumors move faster than police can chase them down. Some say it's one man. Some say it's a gang settling old scores against Italian shopkeepers who won't pay for protection money. Some say it isn't a man at all, and that whatever's doing this can slip through a locked door without needing to cut it open. Nobody in New Orleans sleeps the way they used to. Not that year, not for a long time after. By the following June, a grocer named Joseph Romano is struck in his own bedroom, his 2 nieces asleep just down the hall. They wake to the sound of their uncle's body hitting the floor, run in and see a shape moving through the dark toward the same chiseled door panel, gone before either of them can find a light to see him by. Romano dies of his injuries 2 days later. His nieces are the closest thing this case will ever have to eyewitnesses, and even they can only describe a shape, a height, a coat. Nothing more specific than that ever holds up. That detail alone tells detectives something they didn't want to know. This isn't random, and it isn't finished after one visit to a neighborhood. Someone is choosing these houses on purpose, moving block to block, and no one in the department can explain the logic behind the list, or why some families are struck once and left alone forever, while others are watched for months before he ever comes back. But that wasn't even the strangest part, because when the letter finally arrives, everything about this case changes. It's addressed to the editor of a local paper, postmarked in the killer's own telling, straight from the depths of hell. He claims not to be a man at all, but a spirit, invisible to every officer who's failed to catch him so far. He mocks the police outright, calling them useless, calling the whole manhunt a waste of ink. And then he makes his one specific demand. Next Tuesday night, at exactly the stroke of midnight, he will pass through New Orleans. Any house filled with the sound of jazz will be spared. Any house that stays silent takes its chances. Remember what I told you at the start of this story about the whole city playing music that night. Now you know exactly why. By Tuesday, every dance hall in New Orleans is packed past capacity. Private homes hire jazz bands they can barely afford. Bands booked solid for a single night after months without work. Radios that normally sit off get tuned up loud enough to carry through open windows. The whole city becomes one continuous, overlapping performance, block after block, band after band, brass and piano bleeding together from one house into the next, all the way until sunrise. And when morning comes, there isn't a single attack reported anywhere in the city. Not one door chiseled open, not one axe swung in anger. The killer, if he was ever going to strike that night at all, doesn't. Detectives are left with almost nothing solid. No fingerprint matches between any 2 scenes. No witness ever gets a clear look at a face in the dark. The only physical thread running through every attack is the door panel, cut the same careful way each time, and the weapon, always already sitting inside the house before he arrives. Some investigators start to believe he studies each home in advance, learning the floor plan, learning exactly which axe sits by which backstep, long before he ever steps through the hole he's about to cut. The city council puts up a reward. Newspapers print sketches built entirely from guesswork, since not one victim can offer a real description to draw from. Grocers associations hold meetings to organize armed patrols along the streets hit hardest. Ordinary men taking shifts with shotguns on porches that were never built for this. Letters flood into the police department, dozens of them, most from residents certain their own neighbor is the one doing it. Detectives chase down every single tip. Every single one leads nowhere. The task force assigned to the case grows larger every month and somehow gets no closer to an arrest, until the only thing anyone in the department can agree on is that whoever this is, he knows this city better than they do. He knows which streets go quiet first. He knows which families keep their doors unlocked out of habit. He knows somehow exactly how long a chisel takes against a certain kind of wood, and he's never once been heard doing it. Then, in October of 1919, a young couple named Charles and Rosie Cortimiglia are attacked in their own grocery. Same chiseled door, same brutal violence. This time, their small daughter dies in the very same room. Rosie survives, barely, and in the rawest part of her grief, she names two neighbors as the attackers. Both are arrested within days. Both are eventually released once the case against them falls apart completely, and Rosie herself later admits under oath that she was never certain of what she actually saw that night. The one confident identification in the entire Axeman case turns out to be the one thing investigators can't trust at all. Two theories take hold in the years that follow, and neither one ever fully wins. The first says this was never a supernatural killer or a lone madman working alone at all. It says this was organized violence, a Black Hand extortion racket targeting Sicilian grocers who refused to keep paying for protection, dressed up as something monstrous and inexplicable on purpose so no single man could ever be tied to it in court. Under this theory, the letter is theater. Someone wanted an entire city distracted, entertained, and looking anywhere except toward organized crime working quietly in plain sight. The second theory has an actual name attached to it. A man named Joseph Mumfrey had a documented history with at least one victim's family before the attacks ever began. In 1921 in Los Angeles, a widow named Esther Albano shoots Mumfrey dead in broad daylight, in public, in front of witnesses, and later claims in court that he was the Axeman all along. She's acquitted. No court ever formally ties Mumfrey to a single one of the New Orleans attacks. The theory has a name, a motive, even a violent ending. What it never gets, not once, is proof. A third belief never makes it into any official file, but plenty of New Orleans residents hold on to it anyway. Some of them never stop believing the letter meant exactly what it said. Not a killer playing games with the press. Not a gang hiding behind theater, but something that genuinely couldn't be stopped by a locked door or a loaded shotgun. Something that only music, for reasons no one could name, actually managed to hold back. No detective ever put that theory in a report. Entire families still passed it down anyway, generation after generation, long after every other lead had gone cold. No one was ever convicted for what happened in New Orleans between 1918 and 1919. No trial, no confession, no case file that closes the way case files are supposed to close. The chiseled doors, the letter from hell, the single night an entire city played music just to stay alive. All of it sits in the historical record exactly as it happened, and none of it explains who did it, or why jazz specifically was ever the thing that was supposed to save them. Catherine Maggio never got to hear any of that music. Neither did Joseph Romano or the Cortimiglia's daughter, buried before she ever had the chance to grow up in the city that was supposedly saved that night. The families left behind spent the rest of their lives in a New Orleans that moved on, that turned the whole story into local legend, into a name parents still use to get their kids inside before dark. For the people who actually lost someone, there was no legend. There was only an empty room and a case that never once got the ending they needed. One more thing before we go. If you know a case like this, something that happened near you, something that was never explained, send it to us. It might become the next episode. If this story stayed with you, there's another one waiting. This has been Dark Trace.